Alright, so today we're looking at how to get a nice checkerboard pattern using these Micron 005 felt pins. So as you can see, I've already done the skeleton of the lines on a lot of this model. In this video, we're just going to do this front part here, this front part of his barding, and then we're also going to add the checkerboard pattern on that front shield there. I use painter's tape as a guide, and I just run the felt pin along the edges to get a nice straight line. Definitely do some measuring before you actually put pin to your model. I basically measure the size of the area I want a checkerboard on. I split it into how many columns I want, how many rows I want, and then I cut up a piece of painter's tape to get the exact size. I put it on, and then as you can see right here, I'm just drawing a straight line down the edge using that tape almost like a ruler. Then once that line is done, I'm going to move my painter's tape guide to the other side of the line I drew, and I am just going to very carefully draw a straight line down the other side, being very careful not to leave my pin in one spot for too long to prevent pulling. I just want a nice straight quick line. Just like so. And now that I got that part of his cloth in 3 equal parts, I'm just going to turn the guide around, split it in half, and here we have a 2-row, 3-column checker pattern. Well, you know, the start of one, the skeleton of one. So one of the things I really love about these pins, besides being easier to do work like this than a small paintbrush would be, is they go on very smoothly over your miniatures, but they are not hard to cover at all. Even with this black ink that I'm putting on this model, if I mess up just 1 or 2 thin coats from the white paint I was using, whether it's GWs or 2 thin coats, will cover the Micron pen ink perfectly. So if you mess up, it's not the end of the world. Here I am just starting the checkerboard on the shield. I am actually starting from the middle this time, because if I have any half checkerboards, I want them to be equally on the sides of the shields. That way we don't have a full checkerboard on one side and just a sliver of one on the other. I want it to be, you know, within reason, relatively equal on both sides. But now for these vertical lines, I'm actually going to start from the top and work my way down, because I think it's just going to look better if I have the full checkerboards on top and partial checkerboards near the bottom. The checkerboard I am making for this particular model is actually quite big. Obviously though, these same techniques work no matter what the size, it's just more squares you have to color. So in this step, when I'm making this grid, I'm trying the best I can to get my lines straight, to get them all the same thickness. Obviously you can see very clearly I didn't do a perfect job here. I got a little bit of wavy lines in the other shield, but honestly that's okay. At the end of this, we can do touch-up work through all these lines. We just want to get a rough idea right now, but if we're not perfect at this step, we're going to have a chance to clean everything up. And once that grid's done and dry, we're going to go ahead and start painting inside the square. Using a fairly small, fairly fine brush, I'm going to use this heavy gold brown, which is a very interesting color from Vallejo, and white as the color for this knight. Obviously, any color will work. You definitely just want to have your lighter color be your first coat, so it's easier to cover with your dark color. But very simply, we're just using a thinned down version of our paint, and we're just going to very carefully color inside the lines like we were taught in elementary school. If you do mess up a little here and there, like, don't panic, don't get frustrating. Remember, this is something you do for fun. Any mistake we'll be able to cover up afterwards as we touch this model up. Just doing the best you can right now is just going to save you a lot of work in the long term. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, as what I'm doing here is probably nothing mind-blowing. Just overall good advice. A couple coats, it's going to look better in one coat, and just try to be very thorough and get into the corners of each square. Then once happy with that first color, I'm going to go back with my original color for the background. In this case is Trooper White from Too Thin Coats, which is one of my favorite whites. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it. But basically I'm going over these colors again, just to cover anywhere I actually nicked it with a little bit of pen or a little bit of orange, and just to make sure this is as bright and as clean as we want it to be for our checkerboard going forward. This is also a great time to clean up any of those original grid lines. If you thought they're a little bit too thick in parts, just very carefully make them a little thinner by going over them with white. Like I said before, you'll be shocked how easy this black ink will be covered with your acrylic paint. And of course, if there's any place where you think the black grid line is too thin or not straight, you can go over it again with your micron pen over top of the acrylics paint you just did, and it'll look just the same as the lines you did before. And so you can clean this up to get a perfect grid that I hope you're all able to achieve. And that just leaves you with some highlighting and painting the rest of the horse, and then you end up with a great looking horse with a very nice, even checkerboard pattern. The one thing I will caution you on, if you use my method, use those micron pens, is do a clear coat now before you put the transfers on. Otherwise, you risk blurring those lines and spreading them, and you don't want that. Then once you're done with all the cleanup, you get everything else Unite put together, and this is about what you end up with. This is one of the first questing knights I painted. I thought the checkerboard turned out really well. I hope it turns out well for you. And as always, thanks for watching.